So July is shaping up to be an incredible month for Corvette lovers. GM finally unveiled their all-new 2020 Corvette C8, the first mid-engine Corvette to ever make it to production. And it looks like GM really outdid themselves on this vehicle. It looks great. It has a base price of under $60,000 for MSRP and an acclaimed 0 to 60 time of under 3 seconds. And the hype around this car is crazy. I can't remember a car that has built up this much hype before its launch. So with that being said, I have decided to purchase an all-new 2020 Corvette, and I'm so very excited. A lot of my subscribers are already aware that I have a down payment for an allocation positioning from my local dealer, and supposedly I am in the first batch, which means I should be getting my Corvette no later than March of 2020, that first quarter towards the end. And I cannot wait to share this amazing vehicle with you all. Now, I thought today we would talk a little bit about the practicality of the all-new 2020 Corvette C8. As a lot of you guys are aware, I do have my Audi R8, but it's not my daily driver. My daily driver is a 2006 Acura TL, and I've had it for almost 10 years now, and it's been a great vehicle, but it's on its way out, and so I have decided to replace it as my daily driver with the C8 Corvette. And I wanted to talk in terms of just how practical that's going to be. And in doing so, I'm going to use my Audi R8 as a reference point because I've learned so much after driving this car about just how practical the C8 is going to be. Then we're going to take a little look at all of the specs of the C8 and kind of look at the difference and make a determination of whether this is going to be a good choice or not. So as always, if you are new to the channel, I hope you enjoyed today's video and want to think about subscribing. Also, for any of my subscribers, make sure you hit that bell notification so you are aware every time one of my videos uploads. Now, in terms of comfort for my Audi R8, it's actually not too bad. I would say that it's still got a fairly sporty, stiff suspension, but I do have a mag ride system. This button right here allows me to change between sport, which is much more stiff, and comfort mode. And you absolutely can tell a difference. That's that mag ride that stiffens up or loosens in the shocks depending on whether you have it in sport or comfort. And I love the fact that I can keep it in comfort as I'm driving around. Potholes are not as big of an issue, and just small little bumps kind of get ate by the suspension instead of feeling it inside the cabin. But I will say I've driven this car on long road trips, and it's not all that uncomfortable, but I would hope for a little boost in comfort. And luckily, I have test driven the C7 Corvette, which uses the full upgraded mag ride system that is going to be in the C8 Corvette. Supposedly, it's even been tweaked even more. And this mag ride system offers for multiple modes, and in comfort mode, the eco mode with the softest suspension settings, it is incredible. It's even softer than this ride. The test drove I went on was amazing to see the vast difference between track mode all the way down to eco. Of course, there's some modes in between, but that huge difference was very, very noticeable. So when I'm driving around town and not driving as sporty or on the track, I can leave it in that eco suspension mode, and it allows me to really enjoy my ride quality. And for a lot of the people out there that are saying, oh, who cares, it's a sports car, ride quality does not matter. Again, this is going to be a daily driver. I want to be able to jump in this car and enjoy every type of driving mode. I want to be able to enjoy the comfort all the way to the stiff track suspension, driving around a track as fast as possible. I want all of that. And supposedly with the mag ride system, I should be able to get that. So that's very exciting for my daily driver. And then moving on from the suspension, of course, we have the seats. Now, I will say I was impressed with the seats on this car. The leather that they used in this is very nice. They're very well bolstered, and they hold you in for the most part very nicely. But I do feel like if I daily drove this car and put a lot of mileage on it, this leather would wear out very quickly. It scratches easily, and I just don't think that the way that they built this leather seat is going to hold up as well. I've noticed that on my little driver bolstering over here on the driver's side is already starting to show wear. That's a simple sign that the rest of the seats will start to show wear quickly if I was to drive this car more often. So my hope is that the leather seats are upgraded for better long longer term use in the upcoming Corvette C8. And we do have 3 different seat options. We have a GT1 seat, which comes standard, then an upgraded GT2 seat, and the third is actually a competition seat. Now, until I'm in the car and can actually see the differences, for now, I think I'm going to pick the GT2 seat. The reasoning for it is I think it looks a lot better than the GT1. It's got a little bit more of a sportsy kind of look to it, but it's not as crazy as the competition seat. The competition seat's going to be higher bolstering. It's going to want to hold you in. The only thing about the competition seat that I will say that I like is it says that it has upgraded added areas for extra wear. That means when you're tracking the car and really shifting around, they figured out the areas that wear more. Now again, I will be tracking the car, but not all that often. But I'm wondering if that upgraded seat quality may help with long-term use if I'm going to be daily driving my C8 Corvette. Now, the final point that I want to talk about for comfort is actually cabin noise. And this does make a difference. For daily driving, it's not all that bad if it's louder in the cabin, but for those longer hauls with my wife, if we're going to take it on road trips with it being my daily driver, that will most likely be the case. And I don't want the cabin noise to be too loud. My C6 Corvette, I upgraded the exhaust and it sounded so much better, much louder. But when I had the baffles completely open, it droned a lot, especially on the highway. And I don't want that to be the case with my C8 Corvette. This car, it's much too quiet, but the cabin noise is very nice. You can hear the engine whine because it's behind you, which you will get with the C8 Corvette since it's gone mid-engine. But I have heard the exhaust noise and I'm gonna play a little clip for you. But it sounds like it's very aggressive. However, with the mode selector, you can shut the baffles and it will quiet it down much like I had in my C6 Corvette, and that is phenomenal. That is something that I will use all the time. A lot of times I'll probably leave it open so it's loud and aggressive. That's what I like. But for those long hauls when my wife does not want to be annoyed or I'm just running to get the groceries, I may quiet it down. So I really do love that practicality aspect of owning a sports car that doesn't always have to be so obnoxious. The second factor in practicality for my all-new 2020 Corvette is actually going to be ground clearance. For anybody that's purchased their first sports car, they learn very quickly that ground clearance is a very real thing. I remember when I purchased my first sports car, my Corvette C6 a few years ago, and I learned very quickly that ground clearance is something I was always having to watch out for. If I went to an area that I was not already familiar with, I had to be on the lookout. The slightest extra incline, a curb, speed bumps, anything like that could completely wreck the front of the car. They just sit so much lower than your typical daily driver, such as my Acura TL. I specifically remember a time when my wife and I went to go get ice cream and the parking lot set a lot higher than the road, and there was a lip in the little curb that allowed you to get up onto it, but my Corvette could not get over it. I kept scraping so slightly the bottom edge of my lip and it was terrible. People in line for ice cream could hear it. It just looked crazy and I hated that experience. There was just nothing I could do. I went at multiple different angles. My car was just too low. Now, my Audi R8 is ironically taller than my C6 Corvette. Corvettes are typically about 5.3 inches off the ground in ground clearance. My R8 is actually 6.2, which is nice, but it still sits very low. And I've noticed several times if I'm not taking the right angle on a curb, I will scrape the front edge of the plastic air dam below. We did just get the specifications on the all-new Corvette C8, and it looks like it's going to share the same ground clearance as the previous generation, 5.3 inches, so it is going to sit fairly low. However, there is an amazing option that's finally going to be available, which is a front lift system. You do have to have an LT2 package or higher for your Corvette, but that option is going to be available and allows you to lift your front end 2 extra inches, so it will be 7.3 inches, which is amazing. That will allow you to get over speed bumps and certain curbs that you could not do before, and I think it's something that's been a long time in the coming, and I will absolutely order on my C8 Corvette. Another really important factor when considering the practicality of a sports car is storage. I made a video a long time ago talking about the practicality of the C8 Corvette when we knew it was finally going mid-engine, and I got ridiculed for the fact that storage was on the list. But if you search the forums and look around, you realize that people that daily drive their Corvettes talk about the storage capabilities of their Corvette. The back rear hatch was huge. C7 Corvettes had 15 cubic feet of storage. If you take a look at my R8, you will notice the front area, which is where the trunk is, the frunk of the vehicle, is much smaller. You only get 3.5 cubic feet of space. What this means is I do not have a lot of space for luggage, groceries, larger items that you might pick up from the store. And if you are daily driving the vehicle, that is going to matter. The last thing you want to do is be using your car and not be able to get what you purchase into the vehicle. GM was well aware of this fact, and they answered with an incredible solution. The all-new C8 Corvette is going to have 2 different trunks. It's going to have a frunk like this, a trunk in the front of the vehicle, and a trunk in the rear behind the engine bay. My R8 has nothing back there. You lift the back lid up and there's nothing. The rear of the C8 is gonna have a large back trunk, which is incredible. And supposedly you get 12.6 cubic feet of space, less than 3 cubic feet lost from the previous generation, which for a mid-engine car is unprecedented. And I think GM really knew people were gonna buy this car and wanna daily drive the car, have the practicality factor. And so they really hit it out of the park with this feature. Now, I am well aware for the individuals that are buying their Corvettes for track use only or gonna modify it for street racing, that is not something that they're interested in. But it is nice that if people wanna take, say, their camera equipment or anything they need with them, they will have no lack of space, and it really is a big deal. The final factor that I wanna talk about in practicality for the Corvette C8 is the creature comforts, the interior features that the car will have, and they are shaping up to be incredible, and we're going to talk about them. But in reference to my Audi R8, one of the biggest drawbacks to this car is the fact that it's 10 years old, and the creature comforts, the interior features are lacking. There's no Bluetooth, the Audi navigation is terrible, and honestly, while the sound system for the Bose sounds very nice, everything else just doesn't feel up to date. It's really seen its age on the interior. The leather is very nice, it's a great place to be, it feels nice, but the tech specs that I want to see on the car are not there, and that's to be expected. Again, being 10 years old, that's just going to happen. The new Corvette C8 is all cutting edge, so let's talk about some of the features that we see on the LT1. Some of the noted specs we have is keyless access with push button start, dual zone electronic climate control, a locking glove box, an HD rear vision camera and rear park assist. Then we've got the 10-speaker audio system from Bose, a 12-inch color driver information center, Bluetooth connectivity, and phone projection, a power tilt steering wheel. And then moving on from there, I'm actually at least gonna go with the LT2 package. I'm gonna look at pricing and see if I jump up to LT3, but really the LT2 is usually your best bang for your buck because you move up in terms of a lot of the technical features you get, and you don't have to pay the pricing of the LT3, which is usually just a nicer place to live in terms of materials that they use for the interior, more carbon fiber, better leather, better stitching, things like that. So the LT2 gives us heads-up display. I absolutely want that. I love heads-up display, a power lumbar and wing adjustment, wireless phone charging, so GM heard a lot of people's wants for the wireless phone charging area, heated and vented seats. This is actually a big deal for me because, again, if I'm going to be daily driving this, I'm in the Midwest. We have hot summers and cold winters, so I would love both of those aspects in my car. A heated steering wheel, I've never had that, but I've heard really good things about that. You get upgraded to the 14-speaker audio system by Bose, so instead of 10 speakers, you now get 14. You get navigation with traffic and the performance data recorder. This I really like. I love this because I'm going to be able to integrate this into a lot of my videos that I share with you guys, and so I can lay over my video from my PDR. You get power folding mirrors, which I do have on my R8, which is nice, a rear camera mirror and memory package, a curb view camera, side blind zone alert, and rear cross traffic alert. Those alert systems have gotten so good over time, and I really cannot wait to have them on the car because the more I drive, it makes me a better driver. And while I like to think of myself as a fairly good driver, you can get a little bit sidetracked when you're driving sometimes, especially when you drive for longer periods of time. Those aids just help. They make you a better driver, and I will absolutely be using those on my Corvette C8. Now, the final factor I want to talk about is really important to me, and that is the fun factor. See, I enjoy driving vehicles. It's not just about getting A to B. It's the driving experience from A to B. And while I loved my Acura TL and it got me through a lot of times, I want a daily driver that puts a smile on my face. My Audi R8 absolutely does that. I've told you guys, and I'll tell you again and again, every time I get in this car and drive it, I get so excited. Sometimes I just drive it to drive it. I'm not even going anywhere, and I love that. The fun factor of this car is incredible. That mid-engine design really makes it easy to drive. The capabilities of the car are incredible, and I know the C8 Corvette is going to be no different, and that excites me a ton. So I can't wait to share all of the fun times I'm gonna have in my Corvette C8 as well as my R8. It's not going anywhere. I'm gonna keep both cars at least for the inner term and see how that goes. But I think the C8 Corvette as a daily driver is gonna give me tons of fun content to share with you guys. And I will let you know how accurate I was on the practicality of daily driving the all-new Corvette C8. Well, everyone, that takes care of it for today's video. I hope you truly enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative, fun. It was just a different type of video, but something that really matters for me because the practicality of my Corvette C8 is gonna be a huge deal. Thank you so much for joining. If you enjoyed today's video, please support my channel and hit that thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. We would absolutely love to have you join our growing community. As always, you all take care. We'll see you next video.